I'm Claire McDonnell Liu, and this is the Family Health Lab. In this conversation, I'm talking with Darryl Edwards, a movement coach with a big difference. Darryl is going to share why we've got physical activity all wrong, the dangerous impact of not moving nearly enough on our physical and our mental health, that's for children and adults, and exactly how each of us can make movement a core part of every day, and most importantly, how to make it fun.
You're listening to the Family Health Lab. Healthy parents, healthy kids.
Hi Darryl, lovely to catch up with you.
Hi, you're welcome, Claire. I'm so looking forward to having a conversation with you this morning.
Just chatting a moment ago about where I first found out about your work and how I became interested, because your approach to movement is so different. And it reminded me that we'd met at Wilford Rocks in the Lake District in the UK a few years ago when you were teaching different movements and giving a talk. And I carried you across the lawn of the stately home there. You taught me a technique and how to do that. You're a lot bigger than me. So can you explain how that works, how somebody quite little can pick up somebody who's a completely different build?
We need to kind of head back to our childhood and think about how small we were then, but carrying our friends, our siblings was normal. So, a piggyback carry, for example, is universal. And you wouldn't be spending time deciding to only find a kid who was smaller than you or similar size than you to piggyback carry. You would tend to want to carry somebody larger than you to demonstrate your strength. And so you carrying me as an adult shouldn't actually be exceptional, even with the size difference and the weight difference between you and I. Our musculoskeletal system, our skeleton can bear a significant amount of load. It isn't designed just to carry our own body weight. As hunter-gatherers, we'd be walking for miles, carrying our kids, our hunt, whatever we'd gathered. We'd be carrying parts of our home as we were nomadic. So that's what we would be doing before the invention of the wheel, before the use of horses to do that work for us. So I try to teach, humans in the modern era that it's possible to achieve significant amounts of physical work through the use of play. And if I said to you, I weigh about 105 kilos. So if I said to you, hey, let's go to the gym, let me get a barbell, let me whack on 105 kilos, put it straight into your back, and I want you to carry that for 20 meters. There'll be all sorts of reasons as to why that was not going to happen. Whereas as I said to you, a few summers ago, hey, get on you can piggyback carry me. You can carry me in different ways. Let's give it a go. There's a bit of trepidation, but I give you a bit of confidence. It's like, yeah, let's do it. Go. And it's done. So it's part of the reason why I developed this primal play approach by utilizing primal movement, but using play as the vehicle to motivate and to infuse about the benefits of movement, is looking at childhood activities, childhood games, the fun that we had, exploring movements, exploring the world around us, and removing the limitations that many of us have as adults around what we can achieve physically. And so that 10 seconds of movement was really trying to teach this lesson and this narrative around what we are capable of when it comes to movement.
Excellent. That makes the name Primal Play absolutely so fitting, because it captures the whole essence of what you're trying to get across. I mean, you really, there's a lot of people interested in health, well-being and movement, but your philosophy is very, very, very unique. You're almost trying to kind of make a fundamental shift in mindset, which is very, very, very different and very intriguing. Just on, as you've mentioned childhood, and I know this comes through in your talks and your books and your incredible TED talk and your philosophy, how has childhood, the way childhood is now more structured and more supervised, more hygienic, how children are playing less, getting involved in unstructured play far less. What kind of an impact is that having on children and then young people, teens?
Yeah, so just to step back just a little bit to expand a little bit more on the primal play method. So the primal play method focuses on sort of three pillars. One is exercise science, so having a look at how movement affects our physiology, how it affects our cells, how it affects our physically as well as mentally and emotionally. Then it has a pillar around evolutionary biology and evolutionary fitness, which means how we evolved as basically, and the environment we're in means we have these capabilities even in the 21st century. And finally, I use play psychology to make all of that, in quotation marks, work more palatable, more enjoyable, more engaging. And so discussing children, so when I started Primal Play, I was only really interested in how I could access my inner child, how I could think about my childhood and the long, hot summer days, playing outside, almost having to be coerced or disciplined to get back inside after a long day because you still wanted to carry on playing. So that was my original ethos for Primal Play and what I wanted to experience as an adult and to recapture some of that joy of movement I experienced as a kid. As I got more into the science of physical activity and looking at the stats around the differences in physical activity from 1 or 2 generations ago, from millennia ago until now, you find out that children are overrepresented in the lack of physical activity stats. So for example, 75% of UK children spend less time outdoors than prison inmates. So prison inmates are mandated to have an hour of outdoor time for their mental health, to reduce the likelihood of violence in prisons, to ensure there's a healthier prison population. And yet we don't mandate this for our kids. So most public health bodies state that our children between 5 and 17 need 60 minutes a day as a minimum of physical activity of moderate to vigorous intensity, running, jumping, climbing, carrying, you name it. Whatever kids can do, that's what they should be doing for a minimum of an hour a day. And unfortunately, only around 15 to 20% of kids globally are meeting that figure. Okay, and looking at that globally, that's taking into account all those kids who still continue to free range and have outdoor play as the norm. When you start looking at industrialized societies like the UK, like Australia, like the US, then that percentage, 20%, comes down, right down to single digits. So only 5% of children, looking at kind of the average across all those 3 countries, achieve that 60 minutes per day. Whereas when I was a kid, 60 minutes a day was achieved just on the way to school for me. so I had a 30-minute walk to school, 30-minute back. I was usually in a rush because I was running late. I didn't want to get the bus because I wanted to save the bus fare so I could buy sweets. Sorry, I'm being honest. That was the reality. But I was achieving that just on the way to school. Then I would have break time, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, where usually you'd be going out to play, kicking a football, playing tag, whatever. And this is secondary school. So this isn't even a primary school where there was even more playtime. So within 2 generations, that relative norm of kids having playtime and play as the major components and makeup of their day has become academic, has become structured around play dates, has become structured around organized sports and tuition and training and coaching, and more helicopter parenting and more supervision by adults around what children can and can't do. So in a very short space of time, we've gone from, hey, don't bother me, get out the house, stop watching the TV, get out and do something, find something to do, and all of my friends had a similar message. So we would all go outside and play and find something to do and hopefully not get up to much mischief, and then come back, eat reluctantly. You're just like, get food down as quickly as possible because I want to get back outside. And so that was the norm. And unfortunately, that time of unstructured, unsupervised, free play has been whittled down to now where read some research a few months ago that post-pandemic America, the average kids gets about between 4 to 7 minutes of free play per week.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
4 to 7 minutes.
4 to 7 minutes
per week of
per week.
unstructured, unsupervised.
Unsupervised, yeah.
Wow.
So this is basically where a kid can leave their home,
Yeah.
right, and do whatever they wish to do, right? So that kid may be able to go into their front yard, and the parents aren't too concerned. That's what we're talking about. It's very, very rare for that to occur in many parts of the world, unfortunately, for many reasons.
Yeah, and like you, I've been reading reports about how far a child would roam a few decades ago from home.
Yes.
And it went from a 6-mile radius where your village and your kind of hills around you and your cities, you would be able to go to your aunt's house or visit the local recreation ground. And then it whittled down to just a few streets, and then now it's your yard, the size of your yard. So
Yes.
generally, this particular report was saying around 6 miles was the average a few decades ago. Now it's 300 yards. If you're lucky enough to have a back garden,
Yeah.
that size we don't all. And with that, and the reasons are multifold. You know about this more than me, but we have these screens, obviously, and we have the more cars, more vehicles, fear of stranger danger, and then just generally we're as adults who are managing these children, we're very structured with our lives, and you've come out of a very structured world to kind of forge your own path. From being an investment banker, I'm sure your day looks very, very different now in terms of your daily routine. But yeah, the repercussions and the ramifications for children, the physical and the health, but then the mental health impact, I would be concerned about. And then it's just things like basic social things like making childhood memories, decision making, executive function, building their own confidence and ability to make decisions, and just being in nature and having those skills about, like you were saying, my mum used to chuck us out. And then she went in the summer, I remember the summer, building dens, them falling in, remaking them, stargazing, sleeping out, water fights, falling out with friends, falling back in, making things crafts, because we were out, and my mum, we decided we'd roamed too far, so she went with taking our shoes, so we had to be outside, but the shoes were confiscated, so we couldn't go too far, which is quite funny. You probably had, that was probably the start of of parental intervention around, you've got to stay close to home. But there were so many, after discussing the statistics around this, many people may say, well, who cares? What difference does it make? Our kids are safer now. I'm spending more time with my kids. I'm able to provide a life for my kids that I couldn't have. I didn't have as a child. So the world we're in a better place because of it. The downside is, with this increase in sedentary behavior as kids are now suffering from early onset of many conditions that would befall older adults. So, there are now kids with type 2 diabetes. There are kids of 8 years old with early evidence of atherosclerosis, the inflammation that occurs leading to cardiovascular disease, leading to heart disease. There are many kids now with overweight and obesity that we've never seen before in human history. Significant part of the reason as to why is
this significant increase in sedentary behavior. So there are health benefits that occur going from sedentary behavior to more physically active behavior across the board. So there is no cell within our body that doesn't benefit from an increase in movement, not just for physical benefits physically, but also mentally. Also the types of play that are encountered by kids and are loved by children tend to be risky play. So if your children are unsupervised and they're with their social group, they would tend to want to climb trees, play chasing games, embark in games that incorporate fear. So they play hide and seek. Let me find the darkest, most isolated part of this environment for me to hide. So we as parents are like, oh my gosh, we don't want our kids to experience any fear, to be scared. Whereas children innately, part of their nature, are seeking out these adventures. They want to experience this fear within a safe environment, right? But part of this risky play fighting, rough and tumble play, rolling down hills, grazing knees, like all of these things that occur, enable our children to regulate their emotions, to have better emotional intelligence, to promote social cohesion. Conflict occurs, winning, losing, competition, cooperation, working together as a group and a team. They learn all of these skills. And unfortunately now, many children are learning these skills under the framework of adult supervision. You have to do this way. You have to play this game this way. These are the rules. These are the parameters. Do it because that's how I'm telling you to do this. But we all know, even as an adult, I know most of my lessons learned were not based on what my parents told me. They weren't. Maybe when you're, a toddler, very, very young kid, then yes. Most of our lessons are learned through our personal experiences. And so we're, by reducing the opportunities for our children to carve their own way into the world, to have the independence to be able to walk to school, to be able to explore the environment with their friends. By removing that option, all that happens actually is our kids are less able to deal with the real world as children, as teenagers, as adults. They encounter maybe, bullying on social media, and they have no idea how to deal with that because they may have been in environments where bullying is kind of almost artificially removed. Because no, that doesn't happen here. And rather than letting children work this out themselves. So for example, there was a very interesting study on what happens when you leave children to very young children, somebody who's dominating, somebody who's bullying. And what tends to happen is that bully will be ostracized. So they may kind of dominate for a while and get their way for a while. But after a while, these very young children will go, we don't like this person. Actually, we don't need to listen to this person. We don't need to be influenced by this person. And that person recognizes, because we're social beings, I don't like being on my own. I want friends. I want to interact. And I have to regulate my behavior to be part of the peer group. Human psychology teaches us that it's far better to be in, this social cohesive group rather than being an outsider. It's okay for a short while, but it doesn't work out well for long in terms of a play dynamic, right? As a parent myself, my kids have grown up now, but as a father, I was quite protective. But I still had this playful nature, which meant a lot of the adventurous things that I experienced as a kid, I wanted my kids to experience the same. Unfortunately, their grandparents made sure that they had the same childhood as I did during the summer holidays. So even though I was quite, protective and, I want you back at this time and where are you? And I want to, almost like helicopter parent. And I think the new term now is bulldozer parenting, because helicopter parenting isn't enough. So bulldozer parenting is like you're in front of your kid with your bulldozer and you're like, any hazards, any harms, I'm just going to bulldoze those out of the way so my kid has this like nice, even landscape without any hassles whatsoever.
Lessons as parents, I mean, there's so many different benefits, not just in the physical and the health, and you know what you mentioned about children and the physical ramifications is awful, and it's frightening, and how little time. And as you were saying about supervised play, our children's last primary school, there was some incidents and they kind of bullying, I suspect. Children were getting upset, so they brought in structured play, and they brought it in for a period of time, trialled it, and then decided it was so much easier for the teachers to deal with them in separate groups that they kept it. And it was just like, they absolutely need that free play at that point.
Yes.
Just to kind of, so the last thing they need is to come out of lessons, come out of a classroom being told what to do and then being told how and where to play.
Yes.
So it's, and the bulldozer parenting term, I've not heard that before. And, you know, I think we're all... I was just a little kind of flashlight came on of like examples I could give where I've probably been a bulldozer parent. You know, even with what we know, and we try our best, but you know we have got fears for them, and you want the best for them. I've tried to, with my own children, over time, make sure I factor exercise, movement, physical activity in. Coming up with different ways. When we were living in England and they were little, I had them both in snowsuits or rain suits, and any weather we'd go out, even on completely miserable days. Some days I just thought, it's taken so long to get ready, got sleep coming in my eyes, what am I doing? But the kids, you know, wellies on, they love dancing in a puddle. And then in the English winter, and I think you've had a bit of a tough English winter you're going through, we put, for our children, we put a trapeze in the ceiling one year, and then kept that for years. And sometimes we'd change it to a ladder. And it wasn't a very big room, but it was just how can we get these kids moving actively, freely. So that's why I think your methods and your philosophy just really shout out, because then it's playful, then it's fun, then it's not we're timing this activity, we're taking you somewhere, you've got to achieve so many goals or points or scores, or and then we're going home and we're going to sit back down. It's the unstructured and playful element. And on that, I read on your website that you've dedicated your life to the child, I think you put it from the 4-year-old to the 94-year-old child. And I like that, because it's just, we all have an inner child, and we're, as adults, we're talking, and it's so important to me and so many of us, what's happening to the children, but it's also what's happening to us as adults. But I was curious as to why you've dedicated yourself to this cause and come at it so differently to other people. And I can feel that you're very, very passionate about it. So what inspires you and what motivates you to help and shift this around?
Yeah, I mean, it was my own health journey. I had some health issues in my mid-30s whilst working in investment banking. I was pre-diabetic. I had high cholesterol and high elevated triglycerides. And also I had significantly high blood pressure, highly stressed environment. And the doctor said, hey, we've got some medication that can help. And I asked about the side effects, about statins, about beta blockers for blood pressure, about metformin to manage my blood sugars. And I was like, whoa, I'm really young. I'm only in my mid-30s. How long do I need to take this for? Expecting a quick fix, rest of your life. And I remember having read, a few weeks before about how exercise could help with blood pressure. So I said, maybe I could at least, start exercising and see if I can help improve my blood pressure. And so that's what I did. Joined the gym, went every single day, booked it into the diary. The gym was very close to work, fortunately. Snuck out. Yeah, I'm off for a long lunch. Snuck out, gym, every single day. And I had a checkup a month later. My bloods were redone, and my health markers started to improve. So my blood pressure came down, but not only that, my blood sugars started to normalize, and my cholesterol improved. So my blood lipids improved. So my doctor was like, are you taking any meds? No. Have you gone somewhere else? No. What are you doing? I was like, I've started exercise. I'm trying to improve my health, my lifestyle. And he was like, and I was like, can you keep monitoring me? Because if this doesn't continue to work, I'm happy to take the meds. So I wasn't anti-meds. I was like, I just want to get better. And fortunately, over the next sort of like 60 days, 90 days, are being tracked, getting my bloods taken, things just started to get better. So that was my first experience, I suppose, of terming movement as medicine. So then it would have been exercise as medicine for me. I didn't really think about movement. So it was exercise as medicine. And then I realized I wanted to understand why. So my doctor said he wanted to do a case study. He wanted to have a look at the research. And I was like, what do you mean research? You know, I don't want to be a guinea pig. He's like, no. There's published research out there on the benefits of physical activity. And I want to understand as a doctor why you're seeing those benefits. Is it anecdotal, or is there something, you know, that can impact others? So he says, I want to try and use this and advise my patients around this. So that's what sparked my interest in the exercise science. And I was like, can you send me some of those papers? I want to become a personal trainer. I want to learn more. I want to be able to advise people. And so that was the start of my journey. So I spent the next few years hardcore into fitness. You know, like any opportunity to be in the gym, to be trying to beat other people, lift heavier, run faster, be better. And then I started having regular injuries, and started to procrastinate around exercise. So even though I'd achieved all of these goals, I was in much better shape physically, my health markers were great, I didn't enjoy the process of being in a gym. I enjoyed the outcomes, I enjoyed the goal setting, but I was always clock watching. And if there was any reason why I didn't have to go to the gym, I wasn't that unhappy. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh, my favorite show is on this evening. I have to watch that. You know, like, oh, somebody wants to meet with me. Yeah, I have to meet them, even though I don't really like them that much. But just so I can avoid the gym. So I had a eureka moment. One day I was like, hold on a second. Why am I hating exercise, even though I've had this remarkable transformation, even though I'm telling people all the time and I'm being evangelical about it? Why do I hate it deep inside? And it was because there was no joy in the process. It wasn't joyful. It wasn't playful. I really was doing it as medicine that was forced down my throat. I have to do this. This is the prescription for me. You've got to keep doing this. You need the willpower to continue. And I was like, when did I last enjoy movement? What makes me enjoy movement? I know, when I was out clubbing in my 20s. I would love dancing all night. Couldn't care less about how many calories I've burnt, how my muscles are going to be sore the next day. It was just lots of fun. Music's on. I love it. Dance. And then I'd think about my time as a kid. And I was like, hold on a second. Wasn't play the most important ingredient to me as a kid? Yes, it was. If my parents could have said to me, there is no school for you ever again. Okay, what am I going to do, Mom, Dad? You can just play all day, every single day. That's all you can do. I would have said yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Forget about education. Forget about work. I just want to play. So I was like, that's what I need to recreate as an adult. And once I achieved that within myself, I was like, I need to systemize this. I need to create a methodology. I need to have some supporting evidence. I need to find a way of coaching this and encouraging others to do the same. Because there are a lot of adults like me who either hate exercise and don't do it at all, or want to exercise or want to love exercise but can't, even though they try every single New Year's resolution. They try and they fail, or there's a short-term love affair. And I was like, I need to make this sustainable. So that's how the Primal Play method was born. And I realized it's a universal issue. There are so many gyms available, so many fitness programs available. You can't avoid fitness in terms of the outreach in the fitness world. However,
social media, the messages, the public campaigns, and all of the slogans about pain and pushing through and working out. But we're ignoring them as a population.
Because with physical activity, you have to bring on board exertion. Strain, stress, hard work, endurance. I've got to do this. I've got to keep doing this. I've got to do more of it to get the benefits. I've got to work even harder to get the benefits. So when you think about it, you have to have a certain mindset who is happy to endure the hard work that comes from having to fit your movement into, say, 30 minutes every day. I've got to get in the gym, got to get it done, work hard, sweat lot, out. With exercise, unfortunately, there is nothing easy about it.
My own philosophy with movement and is generally always been to incorporate it into my day, so it's a no-brainer. So cycle to work, and when taking the children, kind of look for a school and look for a house that's going to be walking distance or cycling distance. So my children have to cycle, just move house and move school again. So the school is further away. The children don't want to cycle; it's too far. So now I'm paying them. I'm incentivizing them by paying them double the bus fare that they would pay to the bus driver. They get to keep it if they cycle and automatically go into their account. So it's always, because I just think if it's done in the morning and done in the after school, then anything else is a bonus. My sons go to basketball later this evening, structured. All of their other activities, I'm noticing with their ages that it's becoming more structured. And it's such a shame the tree. I mean, my daughter's in primary school, but my son's just in secondary, and that secondary is a massive game changer. So noticing them, but I'm also noticing myself. Like when we lived by the beach, I take the children every day. That was me cycling there, cycling back, meet them as well, just for my own exercise. That would be my breaks from work and walk the dog on the beach. But now we've moved home. They don't want to cycle with me. I don't know why. I'm not cool enough. For the first time ever, I've joined a gym. And that's what you're saying about, clock watching. It's the first time ever. And I like the music. And I'm doing strength work, which I've not done before, which is really cool. But there is a bit of clock watching, whereas when I'm outside in nature, I'm on a journey. It's a different beast. It's fun. It's movement. For the beautiful thing that movement is. But I know the difference when I'm in the gym. I'm in the gym to work my body and do my time. So what you're saying,
and to be fair, we need the combination of the two, because for most of us, if we just focus on movement, most of us will do the lower intensity, the meditative. Oh, it's so nice. I'm on this nice country walk. I'm hiking. I'm on a nice leisurely bike ride. Isn't it beautiful? I'm on the beach. It's just, that's what we tend to choose, because again, there's less effort involved in doing that activity.
Yeah.
And exercise enables us to ramp things up, because for most of us, when we're moving throughout our day, we're not sweating. We're not necessarily getting out of breath. We're not feeling our muscles burn doing that work. And that tends to be the issue. So for me, movement isn't just just kind of like flow throughout your day. It is finding also opportunities to lift heavy. It doesn't have to be in a gym. To lift heavy, to run hard. So, if I see stairs, I never walk the stairs. Unless it's a significant flight of stairs. But most stairs I see, I'm running up those stairs. I'm sprinting up those stairs. If I've got to catch a bus, I'm racing that bus for a while. I'm going to go to the next stop and I'm sprinting. I'm creating these opportunities. I'm piggyback carrying or trying to, whenever I can, my partner. I'm like, hey, come on, let me see. She's like, no. I'm like, but I'll try ways of ensuring that I treat my movement as I would a well-balanced, nourishing diet. So just like I wouldn't, as a nutritional therapist, I wouldn't say to somebody, hey, just eat. I tell you what, I found this really wonderful food that has incredible vitamins and minerals, has good ratio of macros. What is it? Oh, it's an avocado. Oh, great. Yeah. That's all you need to eat. Nothing else. Just eat avocados and you'll be fine. Well, of course not. One, you're going to get bored.
I think that happens. I think there's a new paper come out and there's a new wonder product or superfood. It's like, you must eat this berry or this avocado or that. But yes, you're right. It's absolutely, it just doesn't work. That reminds me, you gaming your environment reminds me of your TED Talk, which I was watching before this, and I have watched it before, and I actually just think it's like, it just makes me smile, which is lovely. And I think there was lots of kind of fun in the audience when you did that. But you talked about nature. You talked about dodge the sedentary, and you talked about
Dodge
the environment,
sedentary,
making the world our gym, or even better, making
Yes.
it our playground. And it did make me think. I stood today. I've got a standing desk, and I stood all day when I was working today, and looking at your own environment, I think is really interesting, and seeing the stairs as an opportunity rather than kind of going for the escalator. So that brings me to what could we all do as adults more in our days? Just simple steps to get us cracking.
Yeah, so you have to avoid sedentary behavior whenever you can. You've got to also take the less convenient option. So once you recognize that it does feel better to be sitting in a chair, it does feel better not to be moving in the short term. It does. I could say the same. If I had a choice, I'd play my Xbox all day and just sit down and just be using my thumbs, and I'd have a great time. But of course, long term, the body suffers physically, mentally. We're isolated. We have back problems for sitting all day. So I think if you break up sedentary time as often as you can, if you look for opportunities in your environment. So for example, my remote control's on the floor, I'll bear crawl, remote control. Sometimes I won't use a chair, sometimes I'll squat for as long as I can. During advertisement breaks on the TV, now there aren't any advert breaks either. Usually people have some streaming service, but if you do watch traditional TV and there are advert breaks, take an opportunity to do some movement during the advert break. If you want to gamify it even more, you can do things like, as a family game, you can go, right, yeah, when John and Alex start arguing, that's right, that's 5 squats. When such and such leaves the room or goes to the local shop, then we do this activity. And so before you know it, you have this kind of game that you play, watching your favorite TV show, that you can, incorporate some movement throughout that 30-minute or our 60-minute program. So it's using your imagination, using some visualization, imagining what you would do as a kid to make this activity more enjoyable. And then you do start relishing, so when I used to see the stairs, they'd be like, oh my goodness, the escalator's not working. Oh my, what am I going to do? Now I'm kind of like, yeah. And the thing is, I know, I'm not setting myself up. I know I'm going to be out of breath at the top of those stairs. I know I'm going to be puffing. I know it's not going to be easy. I know I'm going to be questioning my fitness by the time I get to the top. But that's a good thing, because you want to, the third point really is to also challenge yourself. So avoid sedentary behavior, seek opportunities for movement throughout your day. But thirdly, make sure some of that is challenging, is testing yourself, testing your balance, testing your strength. How long can I do this for without getting out of breath? Working at all types of intensities. So really still, really slow, sloth-like movement, but also pretend to be a cheetah. Be as fast as you can, be as explosive as you can. So there's this, there's a movement repertoire, almost like treat like a symphony orchestra, right? You don't just want to be the violinist. You want to be the entire orchestra, including the conductor. And all of those different elements of the orchestra play a part into making this amazing composition. And that's what movement should be like. So broaden your diet of movement patterns that you engage in. Sometimes easy, sometimes less challenging, sometimes really challenging, sometimes why the heck am I doing this? All of that is required, because the health benefits exist at all of those levels. So just doing the intense, the hard and the intense all of the time is not going to get you all the benefits of working at all of these different intensities, right? You need all of them. And so that's what I would say. The 3: avoid sedentary behavior, seek opportunities for movement throughout your day, look at the environment and make it more playful if you can. And then finally, make sure you're choosing some challenging, difficult options for movement as well.
Awesome. That sounds good. And I'm going to challenge myself to explore what I could, and definitely bring in more of the play and the child, kind of the having fun. You've got some activities you suggest on your website and in your books. So I'm going to challenge myself to make some changes and freshen things up. And I really like that visual that you're giving, because I notice the difference when I stand. I mentioned that I'm standing at my desk more, and the biggest difference is I'm just so much more alert throughout the day.
Yes.
So it's all those add-on benefits. We were just chatting briefly before we popped onto this call about the benefits of not being sedentary. I mean, there's so many disastrous kind of health impacts from being sedentary, and there's so many benefits from pushing and pushing and pushing. Unfortunately, we do have to be mindful of that because we've made
Yes.
our lives so convenient. So now we have to factor in movement, and it's just
Yes.
a reality, and we have to build that in. As a nutritionist, I'm talking to people about their health through food, but I take a holistic approach, and getting out in nature, stress management, your sleep, all of that, and movement is a key. Movement,
Yes.
along with, say, a low-carb diet for managing diabetes or blood glucose or
Yes.
insulin resistance, it can increase the impact of those nutritional interventions, and that is something that
Yes.
you were saying about the clear science and the clear statistics and research on those points.
So exercise is one of the best ways to utilize blood glucose. So if you've eaten some food and you go for a walk after eating your meal, the biggest drop in glucose levels is based on you going for a walk. So you can't improve that option after you eat based on a dietary intervention, for example. Right? You've already eaten. You've had an increase in blood sugars. That's biology. But if you go for a walk, blood sugar levels decrease more quickly. And the reason that happens is because our bodies, when we move, the muscle cells become more insulin sensitive. So our bodies secrete less insulin in order to force blood sugar into muscles because we're active. So even just having your meal and going for a walk, doesn't have to be brisk, will help to improve that process of blood sugar utilization. As I said, it primes our cells to become more insulin sensitive for between 24 and 48 hours post-activity. So there's a significant window of improvement. It also helps to improve our lipids. So in other words, triglycerides, our cholesterol, it can improve ratios in relation to that. And the longer you exercise for, the longer you remain active, the better those markers are. So you're reducing your risk of cardiovascular disease, reducing your risk of stroke, heart attacks, and the like. So even just those two areas alone, you're achieving significant benefits. There's probably two more things just to get a little bit deep into the science for those who like to do so. There's an enzyme that's produced by muscle contraction. So standing, for example, going from sitting to standing, and you're contracting your muscles in your glutes and your legs and in your back, and it secretes an enzyme called lipoprotein lipase. So this enzyme, lipase, breaks down fats. So it breaks down circulating triglycerides, blood fats, and that's activated as soon as muscles contract. So again, you have a meal, you consumed your fat, you have these triglycerides running through your body, you move, and those levels decrease by up to between 30 and 50% reduction. So by doing lots of movement, you're bringing down some of these really harmful triglycerides, which are significantly harmful to our health. You're bringing those levels down by activating this enzyme, and it's only activated through movement. There's also another mechanism, which I mentioned, based on an exercise, which is we have a mechanism of blood glucose being forced into cells which doesn't need insulin. So we have a non-insulin mediated glucose uptake option, which is based on exercise. So what the body can do is, in the absence of insulin, it can force blood sugar into the cells because of activity levels. So there was just a handful of ways as to how, by eating a lower carb diet, by looking at managing your blood sugar levels and your insulin levels through a dietary approach, by adding movement, it gives you more tools to your arsenal. And I think, unfortunately, many people undersell the benefits of movement and they over rely on one intervention, whereas the science tells us these mechanisms are very well known, very well understood in literature. And so rather than avoiding movement because you feel, well, actually everything, I'm pretty good, I'm doing okay on this diet. Actually, if you want to optimize that, actually, if you want to have more flexibility, metabolic flexibility, adding more movement will only help.
And have all of those other additional benefits for mental health. And
mental health, skeletal health, maintaining independence as you age, reduction in cognitive decline, reduction in risk of Alzheimer's and dementia, reduction in systemic inflammation. So if you're dealing with autoimmune conditions, for example, if you're dealing with pain, arthritic pain, all those areas benefit from having more movement in your life.
I think you're right that we get a little polarized. We have our kind of default that we would like to rely on, and then we're so keen to kind of push that across or kind of rely on that one method that we kind of crowd everything else out. But there's so many beautiful benefits and really, really significant benefits, and working your body and movement in combination with great nutritional, good nutritional style, that's more powerful.
Exactly.
That's been proven. That's really helpful. Thank you for explaining the science on that side of things. I think I find that really interesting. It is it's something that I would get across to groups and dealing with diabetic patients in the NHS, etc. That in combination that is more powerful in terms of insulin resistance, managing their blood glucose, etc. How would you like people to kind of get involved in terms of becoming a primal health coach or sharing your resources or kind of utilising the information you've got on your website? What should they do if they're interested and want to know more?
Best place is my website, primalplay.com. I do have a series of resources, free ebooks, introducing you to Primal Play, moving like an animal, moving like a human, right through to a certification workshop for those who want to teach the Primal Play method. So there are many options to engage with me. I have examples and demos of movements on my website, and I've also got a significant body of research as well for those who are interested in the science. So if you want to be inspired, if you want to learn how to become more playful, there are resources there. If you're like, Darryl, I want to understand this science a bit more because I'm not convinced, then you can bury yourself in a lot of the science that's on the site. And if you just want to see some stuff and do some stuff, then there's resources for that as well.
That's really cool. Thank you. I've known friends who've gone through your programs and absolutely rave about it. So different to anything that they have experienced before, and it stayed with them for a very, very, very long time. Complete game changer in the way they manage themselves with their movement, but also structure their day and think about their health. So really had a profound impact. So and they're still raving about it actually, which is very cool. And then the inspiration. I think if people, if you want to kind of crowd your social media stream with positive inspiration to get you active and remind you at those prompts, you do kind of put very fun, amusing, I think, videos of you doing your workouts in various different kind of places that you kind of think of something new, and you can make a kitchen or a different space a workout zone and utilize what you've got. So that's a way to kind of keep in touch with you and kind of keep getting inspired and motivated by you. But thank you very much for your time and explaining your Primal Play approach and all that you do. Thank you very much, Darryl.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much, Claire. I really enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully the listeners will keep in touch and let me know how they get on embracing more play in their lives.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe. This really helps us to be able to create more content.